But happiness as a whole is something we all need to sort of have sort of an intrinsic look at. Are we happy? If not, why not? Are we in a state of peace? If not, why not?
With a vegetarian diet, if you're going to go vegetarian, you have to make sure that you're getting a complete amino acid score. There are essential and non-essential amino acids, and the essential amino acids are what your body can't get from itself.
That jurisdiction of the sheriff is really the most powerful guard and protector of the rights of the people than any other institution our founders created here in these United States of America through our constitutional republic.
What is happiness? Well, happiness varies from person to person, and that's something that oftentimes people seek to discover or find. So let's talk just a little bit about what is happiness and what defines it.
Well, happiness for me is being married to her.
And vice versa,
How about
being
that one,
married
man?
to him.
That was a good one to start with. Now, happiness is really, it's more than just a state of mind. It's a state of self, right? It's emotional, it's physical, it's spiritual, it could be even financial. It's all those things wrapped up. We've got to remember that happiness is more than just an emotion. It's sort of a place of peace as opposed to a place of upset or a place of chaos.
Yeah, so there's a balance of emotions, the feeling of feeling joyful, elated, thrilled, excited, and then there's also this feeling of satisfaction
Yeah.
that may bring happiness. And that satisfaction may be with family, it may be with life endeavors, it might be with sports or athletic achievements.
Yeah, so think achievement, think conquest, think victory, think something you have, like a possession, can make you happy or produce the emotion of happiness. Well, you gotta remember in time, though, that if the happiness is not sort of driven intrinsically, the extrinsic or the outside in sort of motivation of happiness is sort of temporary. We talk about this with employees all the time, right? So employees can be motivated in both ways. You can be motivated by money, which would be extrinsic, or you can be motivated by the achievement you have inside, which is intrinsic, like you achieve something within that makes you do really well at your job. But happiness as a whole is something we all need to sort of have sort of an intrinsic look at. Are we happy? If not, why not? Are we in a state of peace? If not, why not?
Yeah, so good points. So signs of happiness, they may vary from person to person, and there are a lot of different keys that might emulate someone is actually happy, like feeling like you're living the life that you always wanted.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was doing a broadcast the other night live. It's like, what makes you happy? And I think probably some of the things that make me happy is being able to see other people achieve something that they couldn't or thought they couldn't do. And we had a hand in seeing them do that, and to see that their deemed impossibility is now actually a reality. That's kind of makes me happy. And then obviously when when you tell me I'm a good husband, that makes me happy. When God affirms how much he loves me, that makes me happy, right?
Yeah, so other things like some people like to just go with the flow, and they have this willingness to take life as it comes. So different than the person that is highly motivated
Yeah.
to an achievement to bring happiness.
Well, some people are risk takers, some people are risk averse, and so everybody's different. And I think a neurotransmitter that probably would be related to this is the neurotransmitter called dopamine. Now, dopamine is this thing that's produced, and it's excitability. It's like everybody would understand like the dopamine rush or the runner's high or the workout high or the achievement high. Sometimes that neurotransmitter is congruent with the emotion of happiness. And so I think that, when we look at that, we've got to think about activities that also promote the generation of dopamine, which would generate achievement, which would generate at least internal happiness.
So that would be like living a life that is giving you meaning or purpose.
Right. I mean, purpose, if you're not living your purpose, you probably know it. And if you're not living your purpose, you're not on purpose. But everybody's life has a purpose. And so are we fulfilling our purpose? And if we're not, and we know it, there's going to be a feeling of uncertainty or a feeling of loss or lack in your body. So this whole idea of purpose needs to be pushed all the time. So we need to be checking ourselves and in the sense that, am I doing what brings me fulfillment? And if I'm not, how can I change it to where it will? And if that doesn't work, maybe I need to consider doing something else.
Yeah, well, and if that internal happiness is there should be a sense of wanting to share that happiness with everybody else.
Well, there should be. I mean, I think of a simple, again, back to a biblical concept, the good news of the gospel. If that's good news and that makes us happy that we've got good news to share, we ought to share it. And so when we have something to share that makes us happy, we typically share it with other people. So we got to think about, even in our interactions with people, what kind of information, what kind of conversations are we sharing with them? Does our information that we share produce happiness? Does it show happiness? Does it generate happiness? Or is it the opposite? Because, I think they're both addictive. You can get addicted to one side, you can addicted to the other. You could be addicted to happiness, which I think is a good addiction. Or you can be addicted to chaos,
I'd
which
rather
is
be
probably not
addicted to
good.
happiness than sadness
Oh, no doubt, man.
or grief.
But people are like that, and so, but I'm not saying be overly, false happy. I'm saying that, to be honest about it, but we need to look at our own lives. Are we fulfilling our purpose, and are we truly living a life that produces the happiness within inside of us?
Well, and then once we reach that point, living a life with true happiness, wouldn't that bring a sense of gratitude?
I think so. I think gratitude is one of the things that we should be living with, every day. Thankfulness, gratitude, satisfaction, contentment. We really need to think about how we are living those things. It's okay to want more, but it's not okay to want more and not be content with what you have.
That's a good point.
Because you can always be driving for
That's a really
something
good
else,
point.
but not be happy with what you have. And so you then take it for granted. And that's not okay. That's like the idea the grass is always greener on the other side. Not necessarily. Sometimes it's artificial turf.
Yeah. So last question is, how is happiness then different from gratitude?
Happiness, again, is a state of mind, and a state of heart, and a state of being. Gratitude is really a recognition of the good things that have been in your life, are in your life, or will be in your life. A little bit different, but I think that they go together hand in hand. I think to exhibit happiness, you probably have to understand some gratitude. And to have some happiness and gratitude together, and they go together, I think they almost fuel the fires of each other.
Well, and happiness seems to me to be the opposite of anger. Happiness would have great effects on physical health, physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually.
So it is still a line from the Jamaican friends. Don't worry, be happy, man.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
There's a lot of talk these days about human enhancement.
Terms like biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, and anti-fragility.
In our clinic, the Functional Medical Institute, we've been helping people of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds improve their quality of their physiology and maximize their lives.
So, you can follow the latest fads and gimmicks and maybe find some things that work for you.
Or you can add Kingdom Fuel to your daily regimen right now.
It's the simple start to a transformed life.
Our unique meal shakes are balanced, low glycemic, rich in fiber with 20 grams of clean protein, essential vitamins and minerals, healthy fats, and organic fruits and vegetables. Kingdom Fuel is vegan with a complete amino acid profile.
No gimmicks, just proven results.
Start today at sherwood.tv/fuel.
Hey there, Kevin Sorbo here. Now, deep down, we know this. We're more than just a brain and a body. We're a spirit, we're a soul, and we're also a physical temple. If you hit the wall when you're trying to improve one aspect of your being, it's probably because, well, other aspects are sabotaging our success. So that's why diets don't work. And frankly, why so much conventional wisdom from our so-called medical establishments falls flat. Doctors Michele and Mark Sherwood have a very different approach. I should know because I happen to be one of their patients. They address the whole person to get to know you, your challenges, and more importantly, what your goals are. Then they offer a complete plan that addresses your unique biology and your heart. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. So find out more at sherwood.tv/sorbo. That's sherwood.tv/sorbo, or see the link before. Now, I'm heading for a workout. You should be going for a workout too. All right, guys. God bless.
Very oftentimes, patients will come into the clinic and ask different questions about vegetarianism versus the meat type of nutritional protocol or dietary intake. And of course, with clinical experience over the last 20 years, I have a lot of experience on how to guide them to the plan that's going to work the best for them. But from your perspective, what have you seen?
Well, I think that vegan has benefits because we start eating plants. Most people today, as a common general theme, don't eat enough plants, and that becomes a problem. Like America's, style of eating is we'll take a plate, right? 50% of it will be meat over here, and then we might have a little dollop of small spoonful of like
A dollop.
some type of veggie, and we call it I ate my veggie, or we might have a couple of green beans over there and say I ate my green beans. But when reality was the whole plate was dominated by meat. So people that go vegan, sometimes they do it for the following reasons. They do it for religious reasons. I've seen that before. And some people do it because they feel like that they don't want to eat at the price of a dead animal or something
That's
like
right.
that.
The
So
cruelty to animals here is a big one.
I get it. I can see it. But the bottom line is people should eat more plants, but I don't think they should avoid meat because they miss like iron, and they miss B12 and things like that, and miss omega-3s. I see those short like almost every time. And can you supplement that into a vegan diet? Yes, you can. And then one other issue with the vegan diet that I see is people eat too many of those grains, and because that's not plants, and they end up using it and it causes them to gain weight. So they become nutrient deficient and gain weight, which is not a good combination.
So I tried to go vegetarian in my young years way back. And being an athlete with as much exercise as I was doing at the time, I was exercising about 2 hours a day.
Mm.
I lost my nails, my skin became really dry,
Yeah.
my hair started to fall out. So I realized very quickly that with a vegetarian diet, if you're going to go vegetarian, you have to make sure that you're getting a complete amino acid score. There are essential and non-essential amino acids. And the essential amino acids are what your body can't get from itself. You've got
Right.
to get them from the outside. You have to consume them. So you have to food combine very, very diligently to be healthy on a vegetarian diet.
Yeah, and we taken that into account when we talked about our kingdom fuel, right? Because it's got a complete amino acid score. We've had to
That's right.
construct that
And
thing
it's a pea
together.
protein.
It's a pea protein. So I get it. So if you're out there and you've heard about our kingdom fuel, obviously it is a vegan, right? It would be considered a keto friendly too as well. But the point being is we've tried to factor that in, but we believe as a whole that eating meat is not a bad thing. But if your conscience is one that says it's a bad thing, fine. That's still okay. But you got to supplement at least, the omega 3s, um, perhaps a good multivitamin mineral, definitely a B vitamin. You got to have that in there as well.
Yes, there's also individuals that call themselves lacto-ovo vegetarians. They consume dairy
Yeah.
and they consume eggs. There's a pesco polo vegetarian,
Ah,
and they eat fish and shellfish
yeah.
as well as chicken. There's the flexitarian, where they eat mostly plants as well as an occasional serving of meat. And there's an omnivore, someone who consumes a mix of both animals and plants. Now, the person who consumes an all meat diet that goes completely away from vegetarian is now on the opposite end of the
Yeah.
spectrum. They're calling it the carnivore diet now, or the lamb diet, where meat is the only option. What we know about that is that long term, the gut or the gut microbiome actually needs fiber to survive. And so there's no
Yeah.
fiber in just a meat diet. So there's got to be a balance of both somewhere, somehow. And with the nutritional intake that you're taking in, you have to make sure that you're getting all of the micronutrients, the macronutrients, the phytonutrients that are, and the fiber that is in the plant world as well as the meat world to do a body good.
Well, and I get it. People may prefer meat, they may prefer veggies more. I get that. But ultimately, this is our advice to you is don't do either one of them. Have a balanced diet, and if you want to go down the pathway of mostly meat or mostly plants, get with a professional like us or someone like us that knows what they're doing so we can make sure you don't get nutrient deficient. That's a really key thing right there, I think, with all this. I mean, the way people like to eat today, I'm one to say don't diet at all. Just eat natural foods. If you see it walking on the ground, like or swimming in the ocean or the brook or the pond, and walking in the forest, maybe running through the trees or flying above head, it's probably going to be something you can eat, right? But if it's not, it's probably not good. So I think people get overly hung up in all that mess and try to make something right for everybody. And it's not right for everybody. People have their own choice and preferences with that. And you can work with that. It doesn't have to be all vegan and all, meat. It can be, you can do both, right? But you just got to find out how to make sure you're supplementing and adding to it so that it can be complete. Like you mentioned, the complete amino acid profile. It's got to be complete.
That's right. And if you're wondering if you're getting the right nutrients, we can help. Go to Sherwood.tv. You can find out how we can help you do a body good. You mentioned Kingdom Fuel.
Oh, yeah.
Kingdom Fuel is like a complete meal. It's a plant-based protein with a complete amino acid score, multivitamin and mineral. It's got the greens and the reds in there and a little
Yeah.
bit of fiber. So Kingdom Fuel does a body good. We also do very extensive specialty testing, right? We
Oh,
do
yeah.
some really cool
Micronutrient testing.
micronutrient testing. So if you're wondering if you might be missing some of those amino acids or some of those micronutrients like vitamin A, vitamin B, B12, zinc, those nutrients, if you are a vegetarian, if you need to supplement or get more, we can help you get that done.
What does our Constitution really mean? Find out next with our constitutional attorney expert, Chris Ann Hall.
Let's get real. Most emergency food is just as bad for you as any other choice in the standard American diet. And that's just sad.
We don't just need food. We need highly nutritional food.
We don't just want to survive food shortages, we are meant to thrive in adversity.
Complete your daily nutrition and have shelf-stable Kingdom Fuel as a cornerstone of your food supply.
Don't sacrifice your health. or your taste buds.
Stock up on Kingdom Fuel now.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
We have a brand new documentary out called Non-Compliant to the Sheriff. Now, our first documentary, Non-Compliant, and our second documentary, Non-Compliant 2, are both available at noncompliantmovie.com. The first documentary is all about the duty and the role of the state to be a check and balance on the federal government, state and local government. So if you haven't seen that yet, let me please recommend that you go to noncompliantmovie.com and watch the first documentary, available to you at no cost. It is going to be life-changing, and we have hundreds of thousands of 5-star reviews and people all over the world sending us messages about how this message is so life-changing. And it's a global message because, really, it's about your inherent rights. It's about why government is designed for one purpose. The purpose is to secure your rights, and how our founders put together our governments in order to retain the power by the people to be a check and balance on government through state and local government. And from that, we were inspired to create Non-Compliant to the Sheriff. Now, I have been for nearly a decade, traveling around the country teaching sheriffs and deputies a 3-hour continuing education course, all about the role and the duty of the sheriff, the history of the sheriff's role and duty to secure our rights, not to violate them. We have a whole section on the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, what our sheriffs and their deputies need to know not to be sued. And then we have a section on the jurisdiction of the sheriff, which is so incredibly important. That jurisdiction of the sheriff is really the most powerful guard and protector of the rights of the people than any other institution our founders created here in these United States of America through our constitutional republic. And it's from that course that I had sheriffs telling me, this is inspirational. What you've taught us in these 3 hours is just simply life-changing. As a matter of fact, I've taught this at big conferences where I taught the sheriffs of 17 states all at one time. And I had sheriffs coming up to me immediately before I even got off the stage saying, I've been on the phone changing policies already based on what we learned from you. And we thought to ourselves, you know what? We need the people to know this information. We need the people to know this, number one, so that they can make sure the candidates they have for sheriff know the proper role and duty of the sheriff. So we can be sure to have constitutionally minded sheriffs. Number two, because if you have a constitutional sheriff, if the body of the people are not in support of that sheriff cannot be who they want to be and who they're required to be. And number three, it empowers sheriffs who already have that inclination. In a world that is full of propaganda like defund the police and all of our law enforcement is evil. You see it all over the news. You see wicked politicians propagating this stuff. We knew we had to create non-compliant to the sheriff to show people what's really happening at the level of the sheriff that the media will not show you. There are sheriffs all over America who are standing up in defiance of unconstitutional laws and orders and edicts, in defense of the property rights of the people, and they've been doing this for years. But the politicians and the media do not want you to know this. They do not want you to know what sheriffs are doing successfully, regularly to stand for people's rights, because this is how government's supposed to really, really work. Now, what we do with non-compliant too is we take two real life situations, two events that actually happened. A pastor who refused to shut down his church over COVID, and a sheriff who arrested him for it. And a pastor who refused to shut down for COVID, and a sheriff who said, I'll go to jail to keep you open. And how this two incidents actually impacted and changed their states and even all of these United States, all boiled down to what a sheriff would or would not do. This film is brand new, available at noncompliantmovie.com only right now. Pretty soon we're going to make it available on DVD, so maybe by the time you see this, it will be available on DVD at noncompliantmovie.com. But we're already getting messages about how this is life-changing. And to be honest, if you share this with your sheriff might be one who has watched this movie and come back to us and asked us to come and train their deputies. Noncompliantmovie.com. It will be life-changing.